So almost exactly 10 years ago, my then fiance and I became first-time homeowners. Now, my fiance was from South Carolina. He and I met and fell in love in Austin, Texas. But I convinced him that we should uproot our lives and move across the country and become homeowners in the Chicagoland area. And that's pretty much completely because I'm from Chicago, but I mean like legit fourth generation like Chicagoan, you know? Like when I was a little kid growing up on the Southwest side, my dad and his buddies basically were the SNL Superfan sketch circa 1991, you know? Like mustaches, Bears jerseys, way too much talk about Mike Ditka. Like the kind of guys who exclusively refer to each other by nicknames. My dad's name was Steve, his buddies only called him Mac. Like 16-inch softball at the park, Italian sandwich with giardiniera, like this level of Chicagoan, right? So this is what my southern husband was marrying into. So we buy this little bungalow in Oak Park. A couple months later, we have this big Chicago wedding, and it's an amazing day, lots of friends and family, kind of like a homecoming. It's a little bit bittersweet at moments, which is often the case, right? I actually lost my dad when I was 8. He died in the line of duty as a Chicago firefighter. So there are moments during my wedding that are hard, right? Like walking down the aisle with my mom and my brother instead of my dad, or not having a father-daughter dance. But overall, we're surrounded by love, and it's this amazing day, and now it's time to start this new chapter. So my husband has found a full-time job. Great. I have yet to do so, but I have a newly minted master's degree in theater for youth. I'm so passionate about this work. I'm sure I'm going to find my dream job any minute, right? So I start sending out resume after resume, and I get interview after interview, and then I get rejection letter after rejection letter. The jobs I do end up getting are part-time temporary contract work as a teaching artist. So if you're not familiar, teaching artists are usually sent by arts organizations to go into a school for like an hour or two a week for 6 to 8 weeks to bring some kind of special arts program to students. So I get one of these jobs and I'm like, you know what, sure, this is in my field, let's do it. And then I get another one, and pretty soon I'm like filling up my calendar. And so my life looks something like this. I leave my house early in the morning, I drive in rush hour traffic to get to the far south side to work with some second graders, super fun, we have a great time. Then I book it back to my car, and now I am headed across the city to the far north side in time to get there to work with my high schoolers. Then back in the car, now I'm going to the west side to work at a school. I do an after-school program there, then back in the car, and now I'm headed to a theater in the city, again in rush hour, go home, sleep, repeat, right? Listen, I gain a lot of good skills during this time. Like, I get very good at eating whole meals while driving. I become very informed because I'm listening to a ton of NPR in the car. Shout out WBZ. Yeah. Occasionally, I find myself in this wonderful situation, like once or twice a month, where traffic is amazing somehow, and I get to a school like 20, 30 minutes early, so I like to engage in my favorite form of self-care, thrift store shopping. Yeah. I find the nearest Goodwill and just take a little walk down the aisles, and then I walk out with like a $4 dress, which is good news because despite the hustle, I'm not exactly raking in the dough at this point. And then pretty soon it is a Chicago winter, and now there is snow and ice to contend with, and it's one of these days where I'm scraping my car off so that I can go drive for like an hour in the snow so I can teach for less than an hour before I have to go to my next school. And I think, what am I doing? Like, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe getting my husband to drive, move across the country to my hometown when I didn't even have a job lined up was not the best idea. It is also around this time that I notice that when I'm driving, I'm feeling kind of weirdly carsick, like just nauseated driving around. You got it. So it turns out I'm pregnant. And this is exciting news. My husband and I are wanting to start a family, but it's also a little scary. I mean, for one thing, I have not yet found this dream job, and I can't imagine that's going to be easier when I have a baby at home. And the other thing, if I'm honest with myself, is that I've kind of been checking up all these boxes, right? Like the wedding and grad school and the house, and it's all been amazing, but there's always been something kind of missing, and I think that thing is my dad. And now here I am engaging in the biggest adventure of my life, having my own kid, and I'm realizing my dad will really never be here for this. And so I tell my husband that if the baby's a boy, I want to name him after my dad, not Steve, but Mac. And then I do the thing that so many of us do, right? When we have grief and trauma that we haven't processed, I just like go to therapy every day, and I journal and I read. No, I'm joking. I don't do any of these things. No, we don't do that. No, I kind of take these feelings and I like shove them down. We don't want to deal with this. They do occasionally bubble back up, mostly in the form of anxiety and like obsessing over very trivial things. The thing I start really obsessing over is baby clothes. So I mentioned my husband is from the South. I don't know if you all have seen the way people dress babies and children in the South, but it is so fancy, you guys. There is smocking. There are monograms on everything. Sailor suits. I did not know how to dress a child this way, and I was sure that I probably couldn't afford it anyway, but I was also sure that if I did not dress my child this way when we went to visit my husband's family, that they would feel forever like different and alienated from an entire part of their identity. Listen, I was making a ton of sense at this point. So did I talk to my husband and like let him reassure me? I didn't, no. What I did was what I knew how to do, and I went to the thrift store. So I said I was going to get maternity clothes, but while I was there, I kind of like moseyed over to the baby section. This was very early in the pregnancy. I didn't know what I was having. So I start in the baby girl section. There are like some dresses that would probably pass muster. But what if it is a boy? And I like had a feeling it was a boy. So I go to the baby boy section. There's this long rack of like denim, onesies, so cute, not what I'm looking for today. And then I see it in between two onesies, this blue and white gingham. So I take this thing off the rack, and I'm looking at the back of the most adorable little blue and white like long-alls, like overalls. This is perfect. This is what I'm looking for. But then I'm like, this is silly. Like, I don't even know if I'm having a boy. Also, this thing probably already has like some other kid's monogram on it. So I flip it around, and there's a monogram. It is the letter M. Okay, M for Mac, fine. But this is silly. Like, again, I don't know that I'm having a boy. Also, this looks like it's for like not a baby, but like a 3-year-old. Let me check the size on this thing. So I go to check the tag, and on the tag, in permanent marker, someone has written MAC, Mac. I buy the outfit. And 7 months later, we welcome our son Mac into the world. This was a while ago, so Mac is now 8 years old, and he has a little brother, Henry, who is 3. I did eventually find that dream job at a theater company, but when my second son was born, I decided to become a stay-at-home parent for a couple years, and that's been good too. We still live in the same little bungalow. The other day, I was actually in the kitchen, and my husband walked in. My South Carolina born and bred husband was wearing a Bears hoodie and a Chicago White Sox baseball cap. He said, hey, what were you thinking for lunch? I kind of thought I would go pick up like some Italian beef sandwiches. And I thought, this is exactly where I belong. Thank you.